Christian guitar. Let us have a little Christian guitar, just leading up to the moment of the appearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna. So we continue reading some verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, the 10th canto. Oh, shoot. We're not allowed to. Really? So yes, I'm just going to carry on more or less from where we were this morning. That Vasudeva offered to Kamsa to hand over each child as each child was born, and Kamsa agreed to that, knowing how honest Vasudeva was. So it seemed okay. But then something happened. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. How's the volume? It's okay? Not too high or low? All right. So, yes, we are going to read, starting with verse 64 of the first chapter of the 10th canto. I'll just read the translations. Once the great saint Narada approached Kamsa and informed him of how the demoniac persons who were a great burden on the earth were going to be killed. Thus Kamsa was placed into great fear and doubt. You might wonder, why would Narada Muni do that? Agitate Kamsa. Well, his reason is he wants to accelerate the appearance of the Lord by making the situation worse, so the need for the appearance of the Lord is greater. After the departure of the great saint Narada, Kamsa thought that all the members of the Yadu dynasty were demigods, and that any of the children born from the womb of Devaki might be Vishnu. Fearing his death, Kamsa arrested Vasudeva and Devaki and chained them with iron shackles. Suspecting each of the children to be Vishnu, Kamsa killed them one after another because of the prophecy that Vishnu would kill him. What a horrible person. Too horrible. Just killing children. It's amazing. Well, here Shukadeva Goswami explains, kings greedy for sense gratification on this earth almost always kill their enemies indiscriminately. To satisfy their own whims, they may kill anyone, even their mothers, fathers, brothers, or friends. And there are many examples of that. Prabhupada, in the purport here, gives the example of Aurangzeb, who killed his brother and nephews and imprisoned his father to fulfill political ambitions, following in the footsteps of Kamsa. In his previous birth, Kamsa had been a great demon named Kalanemi and had been killed by Vishnu. Upon learning this information from Narada, Kamsa became envious of everyone connected with the Yadu dynasty. Kamsa, the most powerful son of Ugrasena, even imprisoned his own father, the king of the Yadu, Bhoja, and Andaka dynasties, and personally ruled the states known as Shurasena. Just see the attraction to position, prominence, and all that is so intoxicating that the people, they can do practically, literally anything. So now we move on to the second chapter, moving in the direction of the appearance of Lord Krishna. Under the protection of Magadha Raj, Jarasandha, the powerful Kamsa began persecuting the kings of the Yadu dynasty. In this, he had the cooperation of demons like Pralamba, Baka, Chanura, Trinavarta, Agasura, Mushtika, Arishta, Dvivida, Putana, Keshi, Denuka, Banasura, Narakasura, and many other demoniac kings on the surface of the earth. Persecuted by the demoniac kings, the Yadus left their own kingdom and entered various others, like those of the Kurus, Panchalas, Kekayas, Shalvas, Vidarbhas, Nishadas, Videhas, and Koshalas. Some of their relatives, however, began to follow Kamsa's principles and act in his service. After Kamsa, the son of Ugrasena, killed the 6 sons of Devaki, a plenary portion of Krishna entered her womb as her 7th child, arousing her pleasure and her lamentation. That plenary portion is celebrated by great sages as Ananta, who belongs to Krishna's 2nd quadruple expansion. So Devaki felt pleasure because the glorious Supreme Personality of Godhead entered her womb, but lamentation, knowing that Kamsa would then try to kill the Lord. So, here we go. To protect the Yadus, his personal devotees, from Kamsa's attack, the personality of Godhead, Vishvatma, the supreme soul of everyone, ordered Yoga Maya as follows. The Lord ordered Yoga Maya, O my potency, who are worshipable for the entire world, and whose nature is to bestow good fortune upon all living entities, go to Vraja, where there live many cowherd men and their wives. In that very beautiful land where many cows reside, Rohini, the wife of Vasudeva, is living at the home of Nanda Maharaj. Other wives of Vasudeva are also living there incognito, because of fear of Kamsa. Please go there. Within the womb, this is now the Lord is continuing to explain to Yogamaya, within the womb of Devaki is my partial plenary expansion, known as Sankarshan or Shesha. Without difficulty, transfer him into the womb of Rohini. O all auspicious Yogamaya, I shall then appear with my full 6 opulences as the son of Devaki, and you will appear as the daughter of Mother Yashoda, the queen of Maharaj Nanda. By sacrifices of animals, ordinary human beings will worship you gorgeously with various paraphernalia, because you are supreme in fulfilling the material desires of everyone. Lord Krishna blessed Mayadevi by saying, in different places on the surface of the earth, people will give you different names, such as Durga, Bhadrakali, Vijaya, Vaishnavi, Kumuda, Chandika, Krishna, Madhavi, Kanyaka, Maya, Narayani, Ishani, Sharada, and Ambika. The son of Rohini will also be celebrated as Sankarshan because of being sent from the womb of Devaki to the womb of Rohini. He will be called Rama because of his ability to please all the inhabitants of Gokula, and he'll be known as Balabhadra because of his extensive physical strength. Thus instructed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Yogamaya immediately agreed. With the Vedic mantra Om, she confirmed that she would do what he had asked. Thus, having accepted the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, she circumambulated him and started for the place on earth known as Nanda Gokula. There she did everything just as she had been told. When the child of Devaki was attracted and transferred into the womb of Rohini by Yogamaya, Devaki seemed to have a miscarriage. Thus all the inhabitants of the palace loudly lamented, "Alas, Devaki has lost her child." Thus, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the supersoul of all living entities and who vanquishes all the fear of his devotees, entered the mind of Vasudeva in full opulence. While carrying the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead within the core of his heart, Vasudeva bore the Lord's transcendentally illuminating effulgence, and thus he became as bright as the sun. He was therefore very difficult to see or approach through sensory perception. Indeed, he was unapproachable and unperceivable, even for such formidable men as Kamsa, and not only for Kamsa, but for all living entities. So the Lord has entered the womb. Not the womb, but entered the heart of Vasudeva. He's just beginning the process for his appearance. Thereafter, accompanied by plenary expansions, the fully opulent Supreme Personality of Godhead who is all auspicious for the entire universe, was transferred from the mind of Vasudeva to the mind of Devaki. Devaki, having thus been initiated by Vasudeva, became beautiful by carrying Lord Krishna, the original consciousness for everyone, the cause of all causes, within the core of her heart. Just as the East becomes beautiful by carrying the rising moon. Devaki then kept within herself the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, the foundation of the entire cosmos. But because she was under arrest in the house of Kamsa, she was like the flames of a fire covered by the walls of a pot, or like a person who has knowledge but cannot distribute it to the world for the benefit of human society. Interesting. Because the Supreme Personality of Godhead was within her womb, Devaki illuminated the entire atmosphere in the place where she was confined. Seeing her jubilant, pure, and smiling, Kamsa thought, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, who is now within her, will kill me. Devaki has never before looked so brilliant and jubilant. Kamsa thought, what is my duty now? The Supreme Lord, who knows his purpose, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashayata duskritam, will not give up his prowess. Devaki is a woman. She is my sister, and moreover, she is now pregnant. If I kill her, my reputation, opulence, and duration of life will certainly be vanquished. A person who is very cruel is regarded as dead even while living. For while he is living or after his death, everyone condemns him. And after the death of a person in the bodily concept of life, he is undoubtedly transferred to the hell known as Andatama. Previously, if you remember from this morning, Vasudeva tried to advise Kamsa basically in that type of way. Don't kill her. She's a woman. And if you do, your name will forever just be too heavily besmirched. Yes, it'll just be, your reputation will just be finished. And there'll be nothing you can do to recover your reputation. So he tried like that. Vasudeva tried like that, but as we read this morning, he was not successful. Kamsa somehow or other didn't accept it at that time, and he was continuing with his program to kill Devaki, but now this time he is accepting, because this is him thinking here. All right. Shukadeva Goswami said, deliberating in this way, Kamsa, although determined to continue in enmity toward the Supreme Personality of Godhead, refrained from the vicious killing of his sister. He decided to wait until the Lord was born and then do what was needed. while sitting on his throne or in his sitting room, while lying on his bed, or indeed while situated anywhere, and while eating, sleeping, or walking, Kamsa saw only his enemy, the Supreme Lord, Rishikesh. In other words, by thinking of his all-pervading enemy, Kamsa became unfavorably Krishna conscious. Yes. Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, accompanied by great sages like Narada, Devala, and Vyas, and by other demigods like Indra, Chandra, and Varuna, invisibly approached the room of Devaki, where they all joined in offering their respectful obeisances and prayers to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who can bestow blessings upon everyone. Because this chapter is mainly focusing on the prayers of the demigods. So let us read just one or two of the verses of their prayers, and then we'll go on. Well, actually, there's one in particular. Let me just locate it. It's a very famous verse. It's just, oops. Okay. Right. It's just coming up. It's text 32, actually. Very important verse, which Prabhupada quotes frequently. 32. Yen ye ravandakshavi muktamani nas, tvayasta bavad avashuddha buddhaya, aruya krichrena parampadam tata, patantyado nadrata yushmad angrayaha. So the translation, well, Prabhupada gives an introduction to the translation. Yeah. So to introduce the translation, Prabhupada says, someone may say that aside from devotees who always seek shelter at the Lord's lotus feet, there are those who are not devotees, but who have accepted different processes for attaining salvation. What happens to them? In answer to this question, Lord Brahma and the other demigods said, so this is now the translation of the verse, O lotus-eyed Lord, although non-devotees who accept severe austerities and penances to achieve the highest position may think themselves liberated, their intelligence is impure. They fall down from their position of imagined superiority because they have no regard for your lotus feet. The impersonalists, they generally, in the great majority of cases, they cannot really do anything. O Madhava, Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord of the Goddess of Fortune, if devotees completely in love with you sometimes fall from the path of devotion, they do not fall like non-devotees, for you still protect them. Thus, they fearlessly traverse the heads of their opponents and continue to progress in devotional service. So yeah, those were a couple of samples from the prayers of the demigods to Lord Krishna within the womb. He's within the womb of Devaki. Let us just move on. After thus offering prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, the Transcendence, all the demigods with Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva before them returned to their homes in the heavenly planets. And now we go on to chapter 3, titled The Birth of Lord Krishna. Sri Krishna Janmastami Mahotsava Ke. No one's feeling tired, are they? That's good. Okay. So, yeah, it really gets interesting here. Thereafter, at the auspicious time for the appearance of the Lord, the entire universe was surcharged with all the qualities of goodness, beauty, and peace. The constellation Rohini appeared, as did stars like Ashvini. The sun, the moon, and the other stars and planets were very peaceful. All directions appeared extremely pleasing, and the beautiful stars twinkled in the cloudless sky. Decorated with towns, villages, mines, and pasturing grounds, the earth seemed all auspicious. The rivers flowed with clear water, and the lakes and vast reservoirs, full of lilies and lotuses, were extraordinarily beautiful. In the trees and green plants, full of flowers and leaves, pleasing to the eyes, birds like cuckoos and swarms of bees began chanting with sweet voices for the sake of the demigods. A pure breeze began to blow, pleasing the sense of touch and bearing the aroma of flowers. And when the Brahmins engaged in ritualistic ceremonies ignited their fires according to Vedic principles, the fires burned steadily, undisturbed by the breeze. Thus, when the birthless Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was about to appear, the saints and Brahmins, who had always been disturbed by demons like Kamsa and his men, felt peace within the core of their hearts, and kettle drums simultaneously vibrated from the upper planetary system. So Lord Krishna is about to appear. Not quite yet. Bear with us. In a couple of verses, the Lord is going to appear. Let's see. In verses 7 and 8. But before we go on to them, let us just consider for a moment the mission of the Lord. Why does the Lord appear? Why does the Lord appear? Well, of course, we know from Bhagavad Gita, Paritranaya sadhinam vinashaya chaduskritam dharma samstapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Such a famous verse. And so there, Lord Krishna is basically explaining why he appears. To deliver the pious, to annihilate the miscreants, and to reestablish the principles of religion. I descend myself millennium after millennium. This, of course, this is just one of the really famous verses from Bhagavad Gita. I'm sure we've all heard it so many times. That and yada yadahi dharmasya glania bhavati bharata abhutanama dharmasya tadatna manam srijam yaham. Yes. So, these verses are very famous, and they're explaining, at least giving an idea, why Lord Krishna appears. For example, when the standards of religion become deteriorated and irreligion starts becoming very prominent and the people start becoming more degraded, oh, Krishna, then the Lord may appear. Yes. Srila Prabhupada, not just Srila Prabhupada actually, I was reading just a little earlier this evening, Srila Rupa Goswami and Laghu Bhagavatamrita, discussing why Krishna appears. Of course, obviously we have these three reasons given in chapter 4, verse 8 of Bhagavad Gita. So one of them, let's just consider them, that the Lord appears in order to re-establish the principles of religion. Now an interesting point, and Srila Prabhupada makes that point there, an interesting point is that it is not only that the principles of religion become re-established when the Lord appears. Of course, he does re-establish them when he appears. But that's not the only time when religious principles become re-established. Even a great devotee may re-establish the principles of religion when they have become even terribly deteriorated. For example, Srila Prabhupada, he went to the Western world, first of all, America, and then various other places around the Western world. And he came to New Zealand. Yes, and we were fortunate to see him in April 1972. So the thing is that when Srila Prabhupada began his preaching movement, the principles of religion were in very serious need of re-establishment. They had really fallen to pieces, and degradation was becoming more and more widespread. Sinful activity was becoming more and more accepted just by the people in general. Intoxication of so many types. I remember in the mid-60s and mid to later, that the intoxication amongst the young people, such a proliferation, it was unbelievable. It was amazing. And of course, in their foolish ways, the young people, so many of them were thinking, it is helping us to become better people. We will improve humanity. But actually they were just becoming degraded, and illicit sex life suddenly became so prominent amongst the young people. So prominent. And the idea was that it's good. We're becoming freed from unnecessary, wrong restrictions which are disturbing us. So it's a good thing. But actually it was just degradation. It was just Kali Yuga. becoming more established, much more established. So, Srila Prabhupada started preaching in that type of situation. But when he started preaching, there was such an explosion of Krishna consciousness. It was amazing. He really re-established the principles of religion. Like for example, in Russia, Prabhupada only went once for some few days, but he met one young man who became a devotee, and some impetus was given by Prabhupada's visit. And so that was 71. And then within 20 years, 30 years, Krishna consciousness became so established in Russia, just amongst the Russian people. Tens or hundreds of thousands of devotees, by the influence of Prabhupada, and also by his influence through his disciples and their disciples, parampara, through the parampara. So it's not, even though Lord Krishna says that he appears for those three reasons in Bhagavad Gita chapter 4 verse 8, deliver the pious, destroy the demons, and re-establish the principles of religion, at least in regard to this one, re-establishing the principles of religion, it's not that cannot happen unless the Lord himself does it. It can be done in either ways, and Prabhupada in his purport there, he makes that point, that devotees may re-establish the principles of religion. What about destroying the demons? Like in the purport of that verse, actually, Srila Prabhupada gives a few examples. Krishna, when Hiranyakashipu was harassing Prahlad, Krishna appeared as Lord Nrsimhadev and killed Hiranyakashipu. When Ravana was harassing Mother Sita, then Lord Ram killed him. And here where we're reading, as Kamsa is harassing and doing so much nonsense, so Krishna shortly is going to kill him. But they were special demons. They were not your ordinary run-of-the-mill demon. Even someone like Hitler, such an extreme case in relatively modern times. But the Lord didn't bother appearing to destroy him. Rather, well, nobody even really knows. Certainly no one knows exactly what happened. But there's an assumption. Well, let's just say there's an assumption he killed himself. So these demons, either they kill each other, or time, or just the material nature destroys them. So the Lord doesn't have to appear. It's not that if the Lord does not appear, then those big demons will not be killed. They're going to be killed one way or the other. The Lord only appears in those terms when they're the very special demons, very extraordinary demons, like Kamsa and company we mentioned. Otherwise, Just let the material nature take care of them. It usually does. Sooner or later, one way or the other, Alexander the Great was, well, the so-called great, he moved from Greece across into India, a little bit of Western India he entered. But then for various reasons he turned back and was heading back towards Greece when he got sick and he died. You know, whatever it was, the bacterias or whatever, some little creatures got into his body, and he was killed, even though he was such a dramatic and vicious conqueror. Yes. And then to deliver the pious, well, we mentioned those cases. The Lord appeared to deliver Prahlad, then he appeared to deliver Sita, then he appeared to deliver Devaki from Kamsa. That's something. That is something. But I was reading, I read Srila Prabhupada made the point, and then I read Srila Jiva Goswami made the point. I don't know if I can find it. But they made the point that yes, these are reasons for the appearance of the Lord. But actually, these are not the main reasons for the appearance of the Lord. The main reasons, let me just see if I can find it here, what Jiva Goswami says, if I can. Well, I don't know. Anyway, the main reason they give for the Supreme Personality of Godhead appearing is because the devotees want the Lord to appear. The devotees are missing the association of the Lord so much that they really feel they want the Lord to appear. They feel something like they feel they cannot do without the Lord. The Lord must appear, otherwise it becomes too much for them. Anyway, this is the point. This is the point that Prabhupada makes. This is the point that Srila Rupa Goswami makes it's in Laghu Bhagavatamrita. Laghu Bhagavatamrita. Why the Lord really appears. Out of affection for his devotees. Because his devotees are missing him so much and feeling they just cannot do without his presence. So, but those devotees, they're not just any devotees. They're very special, very elevated, exalted devotees. And so elevated that if they desire for the Lord to appear, then the Lord will appear. If they desire like that. In Srila Prabhupada, in one class, in one class on Bhagavad Gita, chapter 12, verses 13 and 14, Srila Prabhupada makes the point that, well, in chapter 12, verses 13 to 20 of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna describes different qualities of devotees, different qualities. Devotees being very tolerant, devotees being very humble, and like that. And Srila Prabhupada, just right at the beginning of that class, Srila Prabhupada makes the point. Srila Prabhupada says, yes, this is Krishna consciousness. How will Krishna love me? How will Krishna love me? Of course, Krishna loves everyone. He even loves the non-devotees and even those living entities who have fallen out of the human species and just way down into the just very unfortunate and pathetic types of conditions. But so that's just in a very general sense, though, in a very general sense. But otherwise, for Krishna to love someone so much that he will intervene and come and appear within this material world just for the benefit of that devotee, just because that devotee is missing the Lord greatly and feeling that I wish the Lord would appear. I would so much love to see the Lord, and I can hardly live without seeing the Lord. Such an elevated devotee. Otherwise, certainly Krishna does not come in order to get away, in order to get away from Goloka Vrindavan, take a break from Goloka Vrindavan, come to Durban, or Mauritius maybe, something like that, just to get away from it all on a holiday. No, this material world, even just this planet that we're on, the conditions are so hopeless, so horrible, that no one really in their right mind would want to stay here. You know, unfortunately, there are plenty of people who are not in their right minds. And they do want to stay here, and they are staying here. But what can you do? That's just the craziness of material existence. Yes. But otherwise, actually I remember many years ago I was in Riga in Latvia, and we were doing the Sunday program, and we talked about how bad is the material world, how horrible. It's just too bad. Even Prabhupada said once that the demigods would not even come here to urinate. That's pretty extreme. Yes. So we made these types of points. And then I said, so who would want to stay here? No one would want to stay here. Who would want to? And one man jumped up and said, I'll stay here. Yes, anyway. So, but Krishna does not come for recreational purposes to take a holiday or something like that. But Krishna comes. He comes for these three reasons, but particularly he becomes to please his devotees, particularly those very advanced devotees who are feeling they cannot live without getting his association. Then Krishna, being attracted by their love, then Krishna appears. This is the main reason why he appears, to satisfy his devotees, to please his devotees. So anyway, now, devotees, here we are, and it's almost midnight. It is just almost midnight. Let us read the last few verses, couple of verses, which are describing the actual appearance of Lord Krishna. So it's Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, chapter 3, verse 6, and then particularly verses 7 and 8. Let's read those nice verses, and maybe one or two others. The Kinnaras and Gandharvas began to sing auspicious songs. The Siddhas and Charanas, auspicious prayers. And the Vidyadharis, along with the Apsaras, began to dance in jubilation. The demigods and great saintly persons showered flowers in a joyous mood, and clouds gathered in the sky and very mildly thundered, making sounds like those of the ocean's waves. Then the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu or Krishna, who is situated in the core of everyone's heart, appeared from the heart of Devaki in the dense darkness of night, like the full moon rising on the eastern horizon, because Devaki was of the same category as Sri Krishna. Vasudeva then saw the newborn child, who had very wonderful lotus-like eyes, and who bore in his 4 hands the 4 weapons Shankha, Chakra, Gada, and Padma. On his chest was the mark of Srivatsa, and on his neck the brilliant Kaustubha gem. Dressed in yellow, his body blackish like a dense cloud, his scattered hair fully grown, and his helmet and earrings sparkling uncommonly with the valuable gem Vaidurya. The child, decorated with a brilliant belt, armlets, bangles, and other ornaments, appeared very wonderful. Shri Krishna Janmastami Mahotsava Ke, Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Ke, Srila Prabhupada Ke. Okay, I have to go to get ready for the arati. Hare Krishna.
Baba